repeat. What do you understand by the term circulation?
Circulation, is it like a movement of things in a particular order in like a particular direction?
Okay, movement of things. Okay, all right, that's fine. Anyone else would like to say anything about circulation?
It's usually a to and fro movement.
Okay, to and fro movement. Okay. Yes, Trisha, I got your answer. Transportation. Okay. So transportation. I is do we all agree with Trisha that circulation is equivalent to transportation? Right? Okay. Now, why do you think that we need this circulation or transportation system that we are going to study? Swati.
Ma'am, because there's like a lot of things which need to like, reach our like organs and stuff, like oxygen only, like we need it like to reach each and every organ and like be like uh it's just
Okay,
needed
you
for
mentioned one substance, you said for transportation of oxygen. Fine, okay. Anything, is there anything else that that is to be transported through our body, Shreyans?
Yeah, so we have the nutrients present in our body, as well as the platelets and WBCs in case there's a bacterial infect. I mean, they're obviously there. What's wrong with me? But like to their particular places usually.
Okay, so you mean nutrients, right? Transportation of nutrients and transportation of platelets, you're saying in case there's an injury, right? Okay, we got three things now. Anything else that can be transported or that is transported through our body, Trisha? Okay, very good. Removal of waste products like carbon dioxide, undigested food. That's correct. That
heat
also needs to be
regulation.
transported. Yes, Swati?
Heat regulation.
Heat regulation. How do you connect heat regulation with transportation of substances?
Because it transports heat like throughout the
Mm,
body.
See, circulatory system is not involved with the transportation of heat, but you can mention what is going to initiate or what is the substance that is going to initiate the heating of the body or creating warmth in the body. That substance you can mention, but heat is not transferred through circulatory system. Okay, next is Swati. No, not Swati, Trisha. Yes, Trisha, hormones, very good. Hormones are also transported through the circulatory system. So just now we have enlisted few substances. We started with oxygen, then we have listed nutrients, then carbon dioxide, undigested food, and then we have also mentioned hormones. So these are the, and also about the platelets, right? So these are the various substances that are supposed to be transported throughout our body. And who is doing this? It is the circulatory system, which is doing this function, which is performing this function. So through this, can we conclude that this is the reason why we need a circulatory system? To transport these various substances that we have just enlisted. So to transport all these substances, we need the circulatory system. Okay, now give me a moment. I'll be sharing my screen and then we will continue. Just a second, okay? Please let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the need for human circulatory system. See, we have just talked about the materials which are being transported through our body. We refer to our body, right? But apart from our body, when we talk about simple multicellular organisms, okay, how does transportation of substances occur in their body? It happens through a process called diffusion. Now, can Trisha, not Trisha, Shreyans, tell us, what do you understand by diffusion?
So um,
Mhm.
diffusion is usually the movement of not movement. We can say uh, it's basically like the nutrients transfer from one cell to another. Uh, Not sure how do I exactly
Okay,
say it.
Shreyans, just a general definition of diffusion. What do you understand by diffusion? Forget nutrients. What is diffusion?
It's basically the movement of a substance from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so a very simple example is the incense stick, right? When we light the incense stick, what happens? The movement of gaseous molecules from the incense stick happens, and it spreads all over the room wherever we have lighted, right? So the earlier it did not have that concentration of those molecules, but later it got it. How did it get it? Because of this process of diffusion, right? So similarly, when we talk about the simple multicellular organisms, there also the nutrients are being transported by this simple process of diffusion. But when we talk about a complex multicellular organism like the human beings, right? So do you think this simple process of diffusion would have been sufficient to transport so many substances all over the body? What do you think? Would that have been possible? Trisha, what is your answer, dear? You can write it in the chat box. No, right. Because the body is so huge as compared to the simple multicellular organisms. Our body is so huge. So this simple process of diffusion would not have been sufficient to transport all these types of substances. And that's the reason we need this circulatory system that we have. Okay. Now, we have just discussed about simple multicellular organism. Even if you talk about single cell organisms like amoeba, paramecium, how do they take in food? The single cell itself is doing all the functions, right? We know it right from ingestion, digestion, everything till excretion, respiration, everything happens in that single cell. And again, by the same process of diffusion. Just okay. Okay, now we have just talked about the circulatory system. Now, the three main components of the human circulatory system are the blood vessels, and the heart. So step by step, we are going to talk about all these three main components of the human circulatory system. Excuse me, sir. Are you there? Darshan sir, are you there? Okay, no, it's fine. We'll continue. Give me one moment, okay? I will stop sharing the screen and I will reshare another one. Okay, so what is your idea about blood? What do you know about blood, Sanjana?
It's a fluid that transports materials from different parts of the body
Okay. So it
and
transports
gases
materials.
and
All right.
respiratory gases.
Okay. All right. And what is your idea about the blood, Shreyansh?
It contains various elements like the cells, lymph vessel, I mean, not the lymph vessel, the cells, and the transportation of nutrients also takes place in that, as Sanjana said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so blood is responsible for transporting the substances, right? So if we just take uh, let's take an example of the transportation system that we have in our country, right? We do have various modes of transportation. We have roadways, airways, waterways, right? If you talk about, let's just take an example of oranges. Where are oranges mostly grown or found? Swati.
I don't know.
Okay. Trisha. Maharashtra. And if you talk specifically, it is in Nagpur, where they are mostly found. Okay. So, but we are able to get oranges in every part of the country, right? How is it possible? Because there's a transportation system. There are trucks, there are lorries which are transporting them. But those trucks and lorries are coming all the way through various kinds of roadways, which are the network. We have a network of roadways, right? They are coming through that, and that's how we are receiving them. Okay, so let's first talk about these trucks and lorries, which are the carriers. They are the carriers, right? So similarly, our blood is also the carrier, which is carrying the various kinds of substances that are needed to be transported. You talk about oranges, apples, anything, everything is being transported through these trucks and lorries, or just mention any vehicle. Okay. Similarly, all these transport substances which are substances to be circulated in our body are being circulated through the carrier, which is the blood. Okay. So now let's have a look at what is there for the blood. So just a moment, I'll share my screen. Okay, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fine. Okay, so blood is the one which is transporting the nutrients which are to be carried to all body cells. Then oxygen that has to be transported to all cells for respiration. Again, that is also being carried by the blood. The blood clotting materials or chemicals that are there to repair the injured parts of the body. Again, that is also being transported through the blood. Antibodies. We missed antibodies. No, you did say about immunity. So antibodies are also being transported through the blood. Then chemical messengers called the hormones, which are responsible for regulating various activities in our body. And of course, taking away waste products also from one part of the body to the other to be removed. Now let's talk about the properties of blood. Okay, so blood is always in motion. It is never stationary. Do you think blood will stop anywhere? Does it stop? No, it is always in motion. It is always moving. That is why we say blood is never stationary. Okay. Then when we talk about the blood, it is about 5 to 6 liters in an average adult human. It is for about 5 to 6 liters of blood by volume in his or her body. It is always in motion, like we just discussed. Then again, it's okay. Color. What is the color of the blood in our body? This has to be redone. What is the color of the blood? We all know it, right? It's red in color, right? In our body, at least it is red in color. When we talk about its pH, okay, it is 7.4. So what is it? Is it acidic or is it basic?
Acid.
Huh?
Basic.
Acidic.
Acidic? No. Above
Oh,
7, it is basic, right? So anything that is above 7, that is maybe let's say 7.2, 7.4, slightly basic. Below 7, it is slightly acidic. The more we go down the pH scale, it is more and more acidic. Okay. You can have a look at the pH scale. It ranges from 1 to 14. You can have a look at the various colors. You would have studied this in chemistry, or if you have not studied yet, you will be studying about it going further. Okay, so this was about its properties. Now its components. What are the various components that the blood has? So before we talk about these components, let me ask you, have you ever eaten kheer? You all have eaten kheer? Okay. Shreyans, what do we need to make kheer?
I'm not quite sure what you need.
But whatever you have eaten, at least some ingredients you can tell me, right? How does it taste? Sweet, sour,
It's
bitter?
sweet usually. So
Sweet. So
sugar.
if it's sweet, one ingredient is sugar, right?
Yeah.
Swati?
Milk.
Milk, of course. Sanjana? Anything else?
Um, specifically like semia or something.
Rice. Okay,
Rice,
okay,
yeah.
you can say semia also, but basically when we say kheer, it is rice. Okay, we also add some uh, dry fruits, right? Let's say raisins, cashews. Okay, now here, let's consider this milk as the fluid part of the blood. Okay, which is the plasma. Okay. Now, in this fluid part, you are able to see a lot of rice, which can act as what can it act as? It can act as, tell me, what can it act as?
Blood vessel.
No, we are talking about blood. We are not talking about blood vessel right now. Okay. So we have considered the milk as the plasma. Now, in the plasma, we have kept so much of rice, right? So let's consider these rice. Since they are in abundance, let's just consider them as the red blood cells. Okay. Then we do have white blood cells also, the cashews, which are quite bigger in size and little lesser as compared in quantity as compared to the red blood cells. So they are the cashews. Now we have platelets left. So let's consider the raisins as platelets. Okay. Now these raisins, rice and cashews, they are all suspended in milk, right? Similarly, the red blood cells, white blood cells and the platelets, they are all suspended in plasma. Okay. Now, are we getting it? Are you all with me? So what are the 4 components of blood? The first one is plasma, right? And in the plasma, the other 3 components are suspended. And these other 3 components are red blood cells, white blood cells, and the platelets. So one by one, we will be discussing about all these substances or components of the blood. Okay. So how do we define blood? Blood is a type of tissue which is fluid in nature. It flows through various blood vessels. Now, blood vessels is the network through which the blood flows, because blood, where it needs a place through which it can flow, right? Like the trucks and lorries, they need a network of roadways. Similarly, even the blood needs a network of pathway through which it can flow. So it is the blood vessels which act as that network. So blood is made up of billions of tiny cells floating in a watery liquid called this plasma. Okay. Now let's first talk about the RBCs, which are also known as erythrocytes. So if you have a notebook, you can keep making note of the certain terms which are new to you. Okay. Now, so what is the shape of these RBCs? These RBCs are basically biconcave or disc-like in shape. This is their shape. When we describe them, we have to mention what is their shape. It is disc-like or biconcave in shape. Okay. And each of these cells contain a red pigment called the hemoglobin. And this hemoglobin binds to the oxygen molecules. Once we have done breathing, once we have respired, okay, the oxygen is being sent to lungs, and from the lungs it has to be sent to each and every cell of the body. That's what we have learned in respiration in grade 9, right? You have studied about respiration, correct? So once the oxygen reaches each and every cell, it binds to, how does it, how it's from the lungs, how is it being sent to each and every cell? Via, again, blood. And how does it go? By binding to the hemoglobin, which is present in the RBCs. Everyone got it? Are you understanding? All right, fine. Okay, so again, why does the blood appear red? You all know it. It is because of this hemoglobin, which makes the blood appear red. Now, the lifespan of RBCs. Please keep making a note of the characteristics of RBCs. The lifespan of RBCs is 120 days. Now, RBCs lack nucleus. They also lack some other cell organelles like mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum. But when we studied about cell, we had learned that nucleus is the one which is going to control the activities of the cell, right? Now, here we are saying that the RBC is not having nucleus at all. Now, how still the RBCs are efficient? Even though they are lacking nucleus, they are lacking mitochondria, and they are also lacking endoplasmic reticulum, still they are efficient. Now, how is that possible? Can anyone think of this? Raise your hand if you know the answer. Okay, Trisha wants to answer. Okay, Trisha, you can write. Are you writing? Okay, no nucleus, that means it increases the surface area for absorption of oxygen. Wonderful. So what happens, since there is no nucleus, there's a lot of space which is left now. Since the nucleus, if it was present, it would have occupied space, a lot of space, right? Now, since there's no nucleus, the surface area for absorption of oxygen has increased. And this is what makes the RBCs more efficient in the absence of nucleus. Okay. Now, lacking the mitochondria is also helpful for the RBCs. How is it helpful? Again, see, what is the function of mitochondria? It is the site for cellular respiration, correct? That is where in the cell the respiration occurs. So if respiration is occurring there, mitochondria can use the oxygen for itself also, right? So here, since the RBC is lacking mitochondria, that means RBC is not utilizing any oxygen for itself. All the oxygen that it is bound to is being transported for respiration, transported for other functions, not being utilized by the RBCs at all. So this is the benefit of not having mitochondria in the RBCs. Okay. Now, we also said that the endoplasmic reticulum is also missing. It is also absent from the RBCs, and that is also helpful. How is it helpful? Can anyone think of it? Okay, Sanjana, tell.
I mean, normal cells, endoplasmic reticulum gives structure, but since it's not there in the RBCs, it makes them more flexible.
Correct. It makes
They can
them
move
more
through
flexible.
easily. Yeah.
Right. The movement is more easier, isn't it? So these are the various reasons for which even the absence of these cell organelles make the RBCs more and more efficient. Okay. Now, WBCs, which are also known as leukocytes. So white blood cells as compared to RBCs, they are quite larger and they are irregular in shape. They do not have any definite shape like the RBCs. And they are fewer in number, okay? Much lesser as compared to the RBCs, okay? And they do have a very specific role in the body, which is for defense, okay? To protect our body from various kinds of disease-causing microorganisms, and hence that is why they are very important part of our immune system. Okay, we will talk about the different types of RBCs also. Now see, these leukocytes are basically of two main types. The first one is granulocytes and the other one is agranulocytes. We will talk about these things, but let's first talk about the function of WBCs. Okay, we have mentioned that they protect our body from various kinds of microorganisms and they are a part of the immune system. What can we comprehend from this? Who would answer this? Swati, what can we comprehend from this statement?
Ma'am, can you repeat the statement?
We mentioned that WBCs are a part of our immune system. They protect our body from microorganisms. Can you elaborate this statement?
Yeah, because since like they have this amoeboid shape, they engulf bacteria and they protect us from disease-causing germs, like in phagocytosis.
Okay. So you are saying by doing phagocytosis, they engulf the microorganisms. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your comprehension from this, Sanjana?
There are many ways in which the white blood cells protect our bodies from foreign substances. So there's phagocytosis, and sometimes they recognize the foreign body and they produce antibodies for that. So yeah, so they're very and they're important part of the immune system because they help because they prevent the foreign bodies from entering.
Anything else can we add here, Shreyansh?
Not sure, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. So now we'll be discussing the, you have mentioned about phagocytosis, right? So we'll discuss all these functions. Are performing various functions like phagocytosis, inflammation, then also the formation of antibodies. Okay, so we will be discussing about all these. Okay, let's first discuss about the formation of antibodies. Have you heard of chickenpox? Heard of it? So when it's a communicable disease, which is caused by a virus. Okay. So when a person is infected with chickenpox the first time, what happens is the person's immune system had never had any encounter with this microorganism. So the immune system tries to fight, learns how this microorganism is, and then develops a way to fight it if it is encountered with the same microorganism again. So that's this mechanism of developing a way to fight with the microorganism in the next exposure is the production of antibodies. Okay, let's assume, let's just think of a story. Let's say there was a king, okay, who had a kingdom and he had many soldiers also. Okay, now suddenly an enemy has come to fight them and they were not aware of this enemy at all. They did not have any idea about what kind of technique it is using, what kind of weapons it might be using. No idea. They just tried to fight. They did have a lot of loss. Many soldiers were injured, many were killed also. But after this first encounter with them, they got to know what kind of enemy it is, what kind of weapons it might be using again when it is coming to fight. So they prepared themselves for the same for the next time. Similar thing our body, our immune system also does. When it gets exposure or to a microorganism for the first time, it tries to fight it, but definitely it many a times it is not able to succeed because it never had an exposure to it. It does not know what kind of mechanism the microorganism is following to cause the disease. But once it has encountered it, there are antibodies being produced in our body. So for the next time, whenever there is an exposure, the body remembers that there are memory cells in our immune system which remember that, okay, I had an encounter with this microorganism and this is how I have to behave to protect the body from this microorganism. Okay, and that is the reason in most of the cases, whenever a person is exposed to chickenpox once, if he or she has suffered, next time there are very rare chances where situations where they can go through the chickenpox again. It's very rare when a person has suffered twice. Otherwise, mostly we do not suffer from it again because our body has already produced antibodies for it to fight with it when there was an exposure the first time. This is how antibodies work. And the function of producing the antibodies is that of the WBCs, the leukocytes. Okay. Are we getting it? Are we thorough with how the antibodies are produced and what is the role of WBC in this? So another one is about phagocytosis, which is the another function of the WBCs. Okay, so it is the process in which WBCs, okay, particularly a type of WBC about which we will study further, which engulfs the bacteria or any kind of germs that our body would have encountered. Okay, then there's the inflammation. Okay, inflammation occurs due to the reaction of tissues to any kind of injury, okay, which our body may have suffered from, or if there is an invasion of germs. So our body shows symptoms that, okay, there was an injury, there was an encounter with germs. So we may have certain rashes, we may have redness or swelling. So these are caused due to our symptoms of inflammation, indicating that there's a problem which needs to be taken care of. Okay. All right. Now, we all have suffered from fever many a times, right? So is fever a disease? Then what is it? Swati, if it is not a disease, what is it?
It's just your body temperature rising
Mm-hmm.
more than like normal
Okay, and why does that happen?
because uh
Okay, no problem. Sanjana?
Fever is a side effect of the infection that we get
Okay,
usually.
so basically it's a symptom which is being shown to us that there has been a problem now in the body, right? So fever is like an indication, right? It's a signal that there's a problem, correct? So whenever our body encounters any kind of germ which has already acted upon our body, okay? So that's when our body temperature rises, indicating that there's a germ or there's a problem which needs to be now taken care of by using medicines or whatever, visiting the doctor or anything. Otherwise, if we do not have fever, nothing, no indication, no signal, we will not know there's a problem, right? So our body shows these symptoms, okay, to alert us so as to do the further processes to treat it, okay? So we will stop here. We will do a recap of whatever we have learned today. And in the next class, we are going to continue with the rest of the topics. Okay, so we will start with, yes, Trisha, you want to ask something? Yes, tell. Mm, yes, it does not have major cell organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, or nucleus also, but it still has other cell organelles. Okay, it does have a cell membrane. Okay, so other parts of the cell are still there. Only these three are missing, which is making it more efficient, but it is still a cell. Okay. The rest of the cell organelles, the cell membrane, everything is there. Okay. Yes. Have you typed? I think it is. Just a moment. I haven't got your thing yet. Can others see her message in the
Yes,
chat box?
She asked what the difference between corpuscles and cells are.
Corpuscles and cells. See, this term corpuscles we are using only for red blood cells and white blood cells only. There's not much difference. Again, it's still the same cell only. It's just a term that we are using just for reference. There's no much difference. It's still cell. Both are still cells only. Okay. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, I will start with the recap. Yes, Sanjana.
Can corpuscles only be used for red blood cell, white blood cell, and platelets? Or is it
Yes.
not? Okay.
See, in general, it's only used for these cells only. We are not using this term corpuscle for any other cell in our body. Okay. All right. Then we'll start with Sanjana, you only. Okay. So define blood.
It is a fluid that's not stationary and transports materials that transports respiratory gases, hormones, um, nutrients, and other materials from many parts of the body,
Okay.
to and from many parts of the body.
All right. So basically, it's a fluid tissue, tissue which is fluid in nature, fluid connective tissue. And its function is to transport various kinds of substances. Shreyansh, what are the various components of circulatory system, human circulatory system?
The heart, the blood vessels or the lymph vessels, uh, and the lungs are the main parts of the human circulatory system.
You said heart, blood vessels,
Lungs.
lungs.
Yeah, because like the
No.
exchange of gases, right?
Of course, exchanges of gases is happening, but lungs' primary function is to do respiration. It is a respiratory organ. So we are not going to include it in the circulatory system. It is a part of the respiratory system. So the parts, components of human circulatory system are the blood, blood vessels, and the heart. Okay, majorly. Now, what are the various components of blood, Swati?
red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets.
Okay, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. What about plasma?
Yeah, and plasma, sorry. Cellular elements and plasma.
Okay, fine. Trisha, what is the plasma doing in blood? What does it do in blood? Typed? Okay, got it. So plasma constitute the fluid part, keeps its fluid in nature, and also all the other components of the blood, they are also suspended in the plasma, right? Okay, fine. What is the function of RBCs? Shreyansh.
The main function of the RBCs is to help carry oxygen to different parts of the body.
Right. That's the function of RBCs. What is the lifespan of RBCs, Sanjana?
120 days.
120 days. That's correct. Okay. And what is the shape of RBCs, Swati?
Biconcave.
Biconcave. And having a biconcave shape is beneficial for RBCs. Justify the statement.
Because it helps them have a larger surface area and it increases area for absorption of oxygen.
Very good. So having a biconcave shape increases the surface area for absorption of oxygen and also not just oxygen, the other substances also. Okay. All right. We have already discussed about what is the benefit of not having an endoplasmic reticulum. So what is the benefit? This was answered by Trisha. So Shreyansh,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the benefit of not having an endoplasmic reticulum in the RBCs?
I'm not sure really.
Okay, Trisha, tell. Okay, so if it contributes to structure and rigidity and it's absent, so what happens then? Okay, easy movement through the capillaries, right? All right, great. So this is the reason absence of AR is beneficial for the RBCs. Okay, what is the benefit of not having a mitochondria, Swati?
So mitochondria is responsible for cellular respiration. So without mitochondria, there's like it's it like all the oxygen isn't used by the it's like used by the cell only. It's not absorbed by the mitochondria. So uh,
So if it is not absorbed by mitochondria, of course, there's more oxygen available, right, for the cells,
yeah.
right? Yes. So since the RBC itself is not utilizing any oxygen because of the absence of mitochondria, that means it is transporting all the oxygen that was available to it, right? Okay. What is the benefit of not having a nucleus, Sanjana?
Not having a nucleus, it increases the surface area and more
It
oxygen.
increases the surface area for absorption. Correct. All right, fine. We still have some time. We can discuss one topic, I think. All right. So when we talk about the WBCs, they are of two main types. Okay. The leukocytes, which are granulocytes, and agranulocytes. Okay. So granulocytes are those which have granules in their which have granules. Okay. And they are of three main types: neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. So have you ever heard of these terms: neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils? Yes, no, maybe something. Ever heard these? No? Okay. Eosinophils are the ones which are responsible for the allergic reactions, or whenever we are exposed to something which is leading to allergy. And eosinophils are two-lobed structures. Okay, they have two lobes. Then we talk about neutrophils. They are the major constituent or of the granulocytes, and even the entire leukocytes. They constitute almost 62% of the leukocytes. And they are 3 to 4 lobed structures, and they engulf bacteria. That means they do the function of phagocytosis. And the location where they are produced is bone marrow. Okay. When we talk about eosinophils, again, they release antitoxins whenever there's a kind of allergic reaction. So they are again associated with allergies. Okay. And again, they are also produced in the bone marrow. Then next one is the basophils. Okay, they have a very large nucleus which is indistinctly lobed. So we cannot identify how many lobes are there. It's just indistinct. Okay, there's no distinction of lobes in it. And they also release certain kind of chemicals which are for inflammation, and they are also produced in the bone marrow. So neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils, all these three are produced in the bone marrow. The next one is the type which is agranulocyte. Okay, so the granules are absent. Okay, and they have single large nucleus. Okay, so the lymphocytes are the smallest type of WBCs. They have a single large nucleus and they produce antibodies. So the lymphocytes are the ones which are responsible for the production of antibodies. When we talk, and the place where they are produced is bone marrow and lymph glands. Okay. And monocytes are the ones in which the nucleus is kidney shaped. So if I give you these pictures and I do not give the names, you should be able to identify these pictures. So if you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot of the same. Okay, so you should be able to identify these structures. Okay. And these monocytes are also produced in the bone marrow, and their function is to ingest germs. Okay. So this is all about the leukocytes and its types and what kind of function they are performing. Okay, so we will stop here. Now, did you all understand the various types of WBCs, all the kinds of leukocytes starting with neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, then the agranulocytes who are lymphocytes and the monocytes. Yes, Trisha? You're writing something? Okay. Difference in functions of neutrophils and monocytes. Okay, see, neutrophils are basically engaged with engulfing bacteria only, whereas for monocytes, it's not specific what kind of germs it could be. Okay, but neutrophils are associated with engulfing only bacteria. Okay, and for monocytes can be any kind of germs. Okay, yes, Sanjana.
Ma'am, by saying like ingesting of germs, does it like immediately destroy it or how does it happen?
See, if it is ingesting, it's similar to phagocytosis engulfing itself. It is taking it in and then destroying it.
Okay.
Okay.
But it does not squeeze out or anything. It just destroys.
No. See, we will come to that squeezing part. That is different. That is related to diapedesis. We will talk about it going further. Okay. In the next few topics.
Okay, so like ingesting germs is like a local,
Just
like a
you
mechanism.
understand the literal meaning of ingesting, right? So it's the same. It's the same thing which is done by the monocytes. And engulfing is again the same, taking in, okay, and destroying it later. All right. So I hope you all were able to understand the topics that we have discussed. So I'll be giving few questions as homework. So please do it and submit it before the due date or by the due date. Okay. All right, then I'll just fill up the timesheet. You also please fill it up. Then we can leave. Just a moment. Uh, excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So this batch is named as A10
Yeah,
ICS.
yeah, they are
Okay,
named
okay.
8th ICSE. The previous one is changed right now. It is just
Okay,
10th
okay.
ICSE.
All right, all right. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Uh,
have filled
yeah.
it up.
yeah, sure.
Yes.
Guys, please check. You can fill it.
Everyone got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you guys can leave if you're filled it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.